Good evening. Good evening. Hello, Butterfly. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Salty?
I'm pretty good. So you can hear me, I assume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good deal. Good
Yeah.
deal. I can hear you. Welcome, Anna.
Hello, Anna.
Yeah, I saw your comment earlier. Welcome to the channel. We're glad you subbed up and we're glad you're here. We're just going to give everybody a little time to get in here and we're going to go over some of the things we've learned during this first week of trial and try to get a recap on everything.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Hasn't it been, though, trying to keep up with
Yeah.
the testimony and what order they all went in and what was said during the testimonies. Hats off to the people who were there who are taking good notes and trying to get the good information out to us. Um,
Yeah.
we couldn't do it without them, right? If we didn't have the people
Right.
in the courtroom bringing us the notes and um, I'm outside just the media. The attorneys alone that are in there bringing it,
Mm-hmm.
are doing a great job. So
Right.
shout out to Lawyer Lee and Andrea Burkhart, Defense Diaries, Bob and Allie, Joe Smo for getting down there. And of course, we've got some pretty decent media in there, and got a few of them kicked out too.
Yeah. Yeah. It just makes me wonder if that's her intention. Uh, because everyone's having to compare to make sure we heard things right. I can't even imagine trying to take notes on paper.
I know,
It's
and trying
crazy.
to make sure you get every word down the right
Right.
way and that you didn't
Right.
miss anything. And like Lawyer Lee was saying, it was difficult to hear it at some stages because of the people who were speaking didn't have very loud voices. So,
Mm,
and remember when Joe mentioned the lady who stood up and raised her hand, wanting to know if the witness could turn the mic toward her more, and Lawyer Lee talked about that a little bit. Hello, all eyes on Delphi. Welcome in, sweetheart.
hello, allies.
You are also doing a jam up job helping us stay abreast of this case. It's really been a community effort to try to get good information out there. And it's not like we're just being shady. We just want the information that we're entitled to as the public,
Mm-hmm.
and it's insane that it got this far. Yes, Mudbug,
Yeah.
thank you. Welcome in. And we do shout out to her for all she's doing.
Yes.
I've enjoyed the
Definitely.
content over there myself. But we were live on Joe's channel the other night after court, and I've had a little more time to review a few things and get some things saved here so we can review. We're going to go over the opening statements, testimony, and the ones statements of the or testimony of the first few witnesses there. Um, that's really, we only had 2 actual days of court. The first part of the week was set aside for jury selection and all of that good stuff. And they had a break on Wednesday, I believe it was. And Thursday, they swore the jury in,
Mm-hmm.
and there was the motions that were heard. We only got one ruling back, as far as I can tell, on those motions, and that is to keep the sketchy sketches out. Um,
Those
that's a
sketches, I
whole
swear.
like right.
Oh my
That could be
god.
a whole stream in itself, just talking about those darn sketches and
Right.
how we were fed those things for years, and then
Hmm.
boom, all of a sudden they're irrelevant now that it's time for trial. Is
Right.
a little wacky, but they did what they did. Um, it's interesting though because the 2 witnesses that gave those sketch artists their view of what they saw, they're not going to be
Hmm.
called to testify because apparently they're not going to be able to say, well, that's the guy I saw. They're not going to be able to say that was Richard Allen.
Right.
So they weren't able to say it all these years, I guess, either. So, like we were told, put them out there. Then we're like, don't stop comparing them to other people. Aren't we supposed to be comparing them to people to try to
Right.
find the back?
Exactly.
I mean, what are we just going to be like, oh, that's a cute drawing? They're
I mean,
better
that's
than
the
the
whole
real
purpose of a
sketches.
lineup too, is you would think that's what they would have done, considering one of the witnesses had a sketch. So you have the person that you claim to be did this. Why wouldn't you put him in a lineup?
You know, we haven't heard either way. I don't know if they did or didn't
Yeah.
actually take them down. I mean, there may be somebody out there who knows.
Right.
I haven't heard that, they
Mhm.
we don't need, it's like with Idaho 4, right? With Dylan only seeing the bushy eyebrows, we don't know if she was ever put in the room and, asked to pick out
Right.
line up if Coburg or, all that goodness. So I don't know. I doubt they ever did it in Delphi because they apparently didn't do a lot of things correct in Delphi,
Mhm.
including handle the crime scene correctly. Um,
Right.
Messing up some evidence there from the get go, because now we're hearing that this, hair entwined in Abby's hand wasn't even tested until about 2 weeks before trial, is my
It's
understanding
crazy.
from what I've been able to gather on it. And
Right.
they have determined it's a female hair, so I'm assuming that it did get some testing done to it, to determine all that goodness. But um, yeah, could it have been Kelsey's hair off the sweatshirt? Sure, but it would have been nice if you guys tested it in the beginning to rule that in or out, because you literally didn't know whose it was for apparently a very years. If you got it, if you collected that hair from the beginning and you never tested it until recently, what else did you not test?
Right.
Um, my mind went
Mhm.
right immediately to Elvis Fields and the spit statement.
Yeah.
Did you guys overlook that? Was it really there? Did it really happen? If it did, if there was anything on those, the girls' bodies, nail clippings, anything, all of that should have been tested from the very beginning. But
Mhm.
I guess they were picking and choosing what they thought was relevant and what they didn't think was relevant. Kind of like saying, oh, these girls will be fine. They'll come back home in the morning. Like, how do you
Right.
know that?
Mhm.
You're not their
Yeah.
parents or their
So sad.
grandparents. You don't know them. So, how do you know that if the family's telling you they wouldn't do that? You need to listen. It's
Exactly.
insane, isn't it?
Yeah. It sure is. It's just so sad. I mean, because we all want justice for Abby and Libby, and
We do.
them not handling it right just makes it that much harder to
It
make sure
does
we
make
have the correct person.
exactly. And I know that those of us who do speak out about the inconsistencies that we have known for a long time, I'm going to say years because this
Hmm.
case has literally been going on for years. But if we
Right.
point out those inconsistencies or if we make tweets or posts or anything about it, people want to come at you like, oh, you don't care about justice. You don't care about the girls and that, all this stuff. And it's like, yes, we do,
Yeah. Because
because it's
how is it justice if he gets off on appeal because of how it was handled, and we
exactly.
really won't know if he is the right guy.
Right, and it is always gonna come down to the weight of your evidence and how good it is, and it's not our fault
Hmm.
you don't have good evidence.
Right.
If your evidence is not that strong against your perpetrator, your suspect, how's that
Hmm.
our fault? How's it our fault for asking questions? That's actually our right to do. We have freedom of speech in this country, and we can
Hmm.
think how we want. And
Right.
this is it's supposed to be a public record, the trial and everything. And here
Yep.
we are. And now we even got, the media saying, well, what's going on here? Thank goodness there's
Hmm.
some good attorneys with eyes on the case saying the
Right.
same thing. This is illegal. Um, so I don't know how this judge is even getting away with it at this point,
I
but
know.
like, will she get in trouble later? You know what I'm saying? Is there something they could
Hmm.
do on appeal that could cause her to get into trouble for the way she's handled things? I can only assume the lady believes that she's handling it the correct way, but at this point in the game, this stage, it's like, why
Right.
continue with the secrecy, especially with the no audio? I mean, you could at least give us some dang audio.
Exactly.
May not be able to hear it, but at least we would have it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's insane. So there's been I'm sorry, a big truck just went by. I didn't expect traffic to be out here on a Sunday evening like this. I just like, wow, you know what they're doing though? They're literally, so there went two. They're hauling hails of bales of hay because they're starting to cut all the fields down, and I guess their little animals are going to get cold in the winter, so they gotta Animals in Florida do get cold in the winter. They need that hay, I guess.
Oh.
So, okay, I could hear his radio all the way out here in the backyard. I thought it was gonna be quiet. I got all the kids left the house for a while, so I'm like, okay,
Uh-huh.
I'm good to go. I'm not even gonna be
Right.
interrupted with
And then
anything.
the trucks hit.
Yeah, because I didn't want to stay in the house and stay cooped up because it's actually a beautiful evening. So I came outside with my coffee and the laptop here. Hi, woman doing
Mhm.
a shadow ban. Welcome in. Um, a lot of you have been around all week, and we've reviewed a lot of this stuff. So we're gonna review a little bit more, and we're gonna have some conversations. Let me see if I can pull up my this thing wasn't wanting to work right earlier. Like I was having technical difficulties. Ah, it looks like it did. So I was able, I've got a few Twitter feeds that we're going to keep an eye on as well. But um,
Mhm.
Sleuthy did a great job. All Eyes is doing a great job of getting these transcripts from the testimonies and getting everything typed up and try, put in a Google Drive for us. Um, so we're going to go over some of that stuff in these opening statements. Now, the mini opening statements they gave during the jury selection were still pretty interesting.
Mhm.
How that's when we learned about the hair in Abby's hand.
Right.
Um, Nick McClellan asking the jurors, "Well, how would you feel if we didn't have DNA or a murder weapon?" Well, I'm thinking myself automatically, well, we got what the hell,
What do you have?
I don't have a problem with not having the murder weapon because, come on,
Right.
it got tossed anywhere, but no DNA when apparently you got some DNA, you got a hair.
Yeah, right. What do you
So
have?
you
Put it
don't,
that
you
way.
mean what he meant to say was we don't have the defendant's DNA at the scene, but we
Mm.
got DNA at the scene. Like, yeah, you make it make sense,
Okay.
Nick. Quit using your word salad. We got to get you some
Don't they
damn
need to go
dress,
together?
some Delphi dressing for the word salad.
Oh gosh.
I wouldn't even know what kind to
It's
give them.
it's contagious over there, I guess.
It, these poor people, I mean, having to get out there in that line so early just to secure a seat
Mm.
in the building and to
Yeah.
fight the cold weather and all the people who want to cut in line and all the things. And if you go to the bathroom, you're going to get your spot back without somebody getting offended, or,
Mhm.
then you got, breaking for lunch, or are you even afraid to go down the street and grab a lunch? Because if you get back, maybe you might not get back in, you know,
Right.
it's kind of torturous on, is that maybe that was part of it, like, they'll get fed up and they won't even come back,
Right.
like, Lawyer Lee was threatening to do the same to do that, I was
Mhm.
reviewing her, she's like, she got so fed up several times and threatened to herself not to even go back, but, you know, thank goodness they're all trying to stick it out and, to be able to bring the information out to us,
Yeah, because otherwise we wouldn't have anyone really saying anything
we would have
about what's
mainstream
going
media,
on.
and if I'm not
Well, that, yeah.
mistaken, I think that, let me look. I believe that R&M Productions is going to be doing a live in a little while talking about a media blackout or something. I caught a little bit of that. Yeah, here it is for 7:30. So we'll make sure we wrap up so we can go hang out with Ange and listen to this. But
Oh
the
yeah.
Delphi Murders Trial Media Blackout. So we'll go see what that's about. If that could be about, them putting out statements and then retracting and things like that, I really don't know. I didn't have a time to
Yeah.
really look at that yet. So
I saw the thumbnail, but I didn't. I don't
yeah,
know what else.
it'll be interesting to see what she's come up with.
Mhm.
She was live late last night, I think it was. I jumped in there for a little while and then I went on to bed.
Yeah, I haven't
Man,
really been on at all today because I've been busy trying to get ready for the week and stuff. So
yeah,
it's so much.
I usually take a break, at least one day of the weekend, with the
Mhm.
kiddos and the things I got going on around here. But it's been a pretty quiet weekend, so it's not been so bad. And I was so tired yesterday and drained after all week and just trying to keep up with everything. And plus,
Yeah.
real life is what I call it, real life out here.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that's good.
my son came by today, so I got to visit with him for a little while. So, but other than that, just see what happens this coming week
Well, hopefully
with
it'll
this
be a good
case.
week, and hopefully, we can. Um, I know that then when they wrapped up on Saturday, they said that the next witness up was going to be a lengthy testimonies there. And we were supposed to hear from the coroner, so I'm assuming that the coroner will be up on Monday. I don't really know. I haven't seen a witness list for what will be called on Monday, but I haven't really checked into it yet either. Um, but I'll be home tomorrow, and I'll be trying to keep up with things as best we can as it all comes out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm,
Yeah, the case is very
yep.
sad, and a lot of us have been following this case from the very beginning. We didn't. It's understandable if people are just coming into the case. I understand that, but a lot of us have been following the case since those girls went missing. And
Yep.
I was talking to Joe about that, and I said, 7 years ago, when I had the news on at home, and I'm there doing my mom thing in my home, and I hear these two girls are missing, and I turn around to watch the segment and get a look at their faces because, people can put these kids in cars and just be anywhere in the country within a day or two, right? So
Mm-hmm.
always turn around, try to pay attention. So I did that. I thought, oh man, that's horrible. These two little girls, what the hell's going on out there in this crazy world? And then to think we would be here today with that case. I've never seen a
Still.
case like this unfold the way this one has. And I've been following true crime and court cases for like, 30, 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't recall anything that comes close to this case. Um,
Yep. I
but
haven't followed it from the beginning, but I've heard about it, and then more recently, so I've learned a lot
yeah,
recently. But yeah,
yeah.
it's very.
And trying and for people to understand, that we had this audio, video stuff out there early and these different sketches out there so early on and how they were different and how they also came together according to, Carter and all the things.
Mhm.
It's been a lot for people to digest, I think, that are just starting to come in and they don't understand some of the things we're talking about. And I think that causes, some of the confusion and how they view us for having a view, and
Yeah,
I
but
like
you guys are the ones we can learn more from because
yeah.
all of you have been digging into this case since then. And then what is horrible is that it's taken this long to get justice for these two beautiful little girls,
Mhm.
and then now it's just
And
everything's
now
so closed off. We can't
yeah,
find out anything.
exactly. And if Richard Allen is the guy, they need to have some solid proof because at this point it's a lot of the things we talk about come from their own investigation and
Hmm.
things they've literally said to us. I'm like, well, why are y'all mad at us when like the general public on Twitter and things like that, and people who want to come in your comments and leave things, and you're like, well, you're entitled to your opinion, but so am I. And if
Right.
you would stick around and learn a little more, you might understand how we got where we are and
Right, because it's
why.
not being disrespectful. You guys are finding out the facts of the case and then just questioning what isn't
Right,
so transparent that they're releasing.
right. Because I understand the gag orders and all that good stuff. Keeping
Hmm.
things close to the vest. We get it. Um, especially if you've been in true crime for a hot minute, you get it, but it's like, come on, man, you continue to insult our intelligence with your word salads and your multiple press conferences and your multiple sketches and all these things. We
Hmm.
don't know what to believe anymore,
Right.
and it appears now, trial's kicking off, and it appears, according to Nick, you got a bridge guy and a bullet and two horrible murders. Is that literally all you got?
Hmm.
Because we already know there's going to be some, um, hopefully there'll be some testimony about that bullet that we can get to a resolution on that. Because the more, if you look into the ballistic testings and all the things that go with that, You see
Mhm.
how inconsistent it is, and there's court cases where it's not even allowed, and to be talked, certain evidence with those bullets can't even be brought in because it's just not a true science behind it, not enough
Right.
to, especially with an unspent bullet.
Unspent. Right.
Mhm. Yeah, because I was reading more about that. I think it was late last night, and how the weapon, allegedly Rick Allen's gun, if that's the gun, 5 years passed.
Mhm.
People are just now realizing that that bullet was, even some of the attorneys that are there covering the case are just now realizing this unspent bullet was found between the two girls, 2 inches under the ground.
Wow.
So if you got an unspent bullet that just
Two
popped out,
inches.
wouldn't it land on top of the ground? Like if I shot the ground
Right.
with my pistol, okay, yeah, the bullet may go down in that earth a little bit and it's going to sit there. Um, but if I got an unspent round from me racking that gun, it's just going to fall on top of the earth.
Right.
And how's it going to get to, was it stepped on? Was there a footprint over it? Did somebody smash it into the ground? What? Take pictures. I need to see the photographs now.
Mhm.
They put the little evidence markers out. We even saw that in the Coburger case around the King Roadhouse. They have markers around for certain things. You got to photograph all that stuff. You have to
Mhm.
you're supposed to. You have to memorialize all of it and capture all that you can about your crime scene and your evidence. And if I am there doing my job, I'm be taking a lot of pictures of where that. And how did they find it if it was under the ground? Was there a metal detector involved?
That's what I mean. 2 inches. The girls weren't there that long for
Well,
it to just sink into the ground if it had rained or something to that effect. But no, just two
it makes no
inches.
it makes no
No, it
sense,
doesn't.
does it? And that's
No.
when Mr. Steve actually did testing on that, like burying bullets in his backyard and leaving them for different stages of length of time, and then digging
Mhm.
them back up and seeing what kind of dirt, what kind of corrosion. I think that came that because Mr. Steve always does like
His
recreation or
experiments.
yeah,
Yeah.
he experiments with that stuff, and I think that came out of a conversation one night whenever Teresa from Criminality was over there in the chat,
Mm.
and the kid, we were all discussing it. He's like, you know what? Let's bury some bullets because he's done a lot of good work in a lot of other cases, so he did. Um, and there's really, we need to it that's important. How long was that bullet down there? How did it get under the ground? And how did you find it? That would be one
Right.
of my first as a juror. I'm gonna be like, well, how did y'all find it if it was 2 inches under? Did y'all run across with a metal detector? Or was it the only bullet recovered? You know, and we're
Because even
finding
if the
out,
girls had fallen on it, it still wouldn't be 2 inches.
right? It wouldn't have
They would
went
have
down
had to have
that
been
deep
there longer than they were for it to have gone deeper into the
to
ground.
settle down into the ground like
Mhm.
that. And like you said, with the rain, and even we know it snows in that area, and it was winter and everything, but they found it, so it couldn't,
Or was it
just
2 inches because someone stepped on it and
well,
then
that's
they
what I'm
found it?
saying. If it was stepped on and it was, there would be like, was there any impressions from a boot or shoe,
Mhm.
anything like that? um, Photograph the area that you found it in before you unearthed it, and then as you unearth, you take more photos.
Right.
That's kind of like crime scene 101, and I'm just a chick in the backyard right now, and I know to
Right.
do all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I need to come work for the state of Indiana.
Right.
How much
Get
they pay
everyone
me,
there.
right? We could put together a jam up team and take of
Yeah.
investigators. We're like, we're on it, let us at it. We
Yeah.
could probably unearth a lot more than they did apparently in their investigation. And it's sad because you haven't done those girls any justice or their
No.
families by botching your investigation. And so I had to start wondering, was all of this they're doing because they just didn't, are they so embarrassed by their own investigation standards or lack of that
But
they
they're
didn't.
still not doing them justice by covering to
Exactly.
make themselves look better. They're not making themselves look better by doing that.
I don't think they ever thought this many eyes would be on that case or follow it so actively or
Right.
jump into the deep end and really look at everything And I don't think they expected defense attorneys to come in hot like that and be like, well, wait a minute. Did they just expect that everyone's going to be okay with, oh, great, yay, you got the guy? Of course, we
Yeah.
want to believe you got the right guy, and we want to believe in your investigation. Um,
Mhm.
the fact that there was issues they had with the FBI, any small town that's not adequately equipped to handle a crime scene like that, or you have such small town investigations, you're not used to something so big that could be so big. You want your outside agency to come in, your state agency, I should say, at least your
Yeah,
state
they sent them
agency
away.
and FP. Yeah, the state's been there, ISP, that they surely didn't want the FBI in there anymore.
No.
You know, and
Hmm.
we've often wondered. Oh, I've often wondered, and going back to the DNA, because I know. I knew the Golden State Killer was caught with genealogical DNA.
Right.
Um, It's also was used in the Brian Koberger case. That's a huge deal over there. That IgG
Hmm.
information that they've been battling out in court over all of that,
Right.
and watching all that play out over the whole year. This has been going on. Where's your IgG investigation? And then we
Hmm.
learned they spent $20,000 on genetic genealogy, but what
Yes, I was
did
like,
it?
okay, so where's the results?
Right? Did it yield nothing? Who showed up on that family tree? And y'all were like, "Oh no, you don't want to shake this tree after all." Like that's
Yeah.
what you cause me to believe stuff like that now. And
Hmm.
so, because I know Paul Holes claims that he was consulted in the case, and Paul Holes is a detective who literally helped capture the Golden State Killer using genealogy. And CC Moore also allegedly offered her services for free and was turned down. I'm
Wow.
sorry, if I got CC Moore knocking on my door saying, "Hey, I'm here to help. What do you need?" Come on in, sister.
Hmm.
Let's get busy. We got to find this
Well,
person,
any
right?
resources that are going to help find the person who did it, why would you turn that down?
Exactly.
And then you're billing $20,000 for something that we don't even have the results from. That what
And what?
taxpayers paid for?
Yeah, what was that 20 grand spent on for real? A Jed match search. If you didn't have CC or Paul Holes in there doing all that, who was doing it for you and spending that 20
Hmm.
grand? Did it slide into a pocket? I mean,
Right.
I better be quite frightened of a
Yeah.
lawsuit. Anna, that's a great question. We don't know when that bullet was found. I had heard 2 weeks. I've heard 3 days that they cleared. Barbara McDonald had a report out about that a while back that um, allegedly they cleared the crime scene, and then they go back in and do some more work, I guess, and then they discover this bullet. But we haven't seen any clarification on, out of documents, I should say, as to when that bullet was discovered. If it was day one, day two, day three, or 2 weeks later. That matters. So I'm sure the defense has already determined that, or tried to determine that out of the discovery that they did get. Yeah, Mudbug, I agree. I was reading your comment there, guy. The state, continue. They want us to think they have a very strong case, and it just doesn't seem like they do. Other than it appeared by magic, like Doug's magic hands.
Oh,
Um,
the morph.
like that guy, I swear, that guy. Um, let's start out with, I found something interesting the other night. Well, I've seen it a long time ago, but we were always told, down the hill, and then guys down the hill was the
Hmm.
voice in the video. And then we started hearing, well, maybe it wasn't. Like it could have been a different person's voice. So let me pull up this little clip. I made a little
Okay.
YouTube short out of it.
Right. I'll be right back.
Hang on. Let me pull my screen up here. Guys, I'm on the laptop, and if I hit the wrong button, it's all over with. I'll have to just go get on the desktop and come back. Hey, Steven's Adventure, welcome in. Always good to see you. Okay, so this was a conversation by one of the ISP agents in Indiana talking with Long Crime. They were discussing the James Chadwell case. James Chadwell was out of Logansport, Indiana, and he was arrested and charged with the abduction and SA of a little girl from his neighborhood. He was literally looked at as one of the suspects early on in the Delphi case. Um, well, they never technically named him a suspect, but it was interesting that this detective made these comments during a conversation about Chadwell. So let me pull this up, share screen. It's only a few seconds of a clip, guys. Um, oops. Okay. So let me see if I get it from
the image from the cell phone. That's not necessarily the case.
Let me try to get it to start from the beginning. It'll replay.
We're not making any assumption about that. We have more video, we have more audio, but it is specific to the investigation, and that's why it's not being released at this time.
Okay. Let me start that over so you guys can hear from the beginning.
People want to make the assumption that the voice saying down the hill, it belongs to the person that's captured in the image from the cell phone. That's not necessarily the case. We're not making any assumption about that.
See, if they don't believe, I mean, it's like if you guys don't believe that that's the person who said it, and I believe that if I read it wrong, if I read it correctly, I should say that the defense will say that because they've seen the 43-second video that we have not seen, right? And
Right.
that during the image taken of the bridge guy walking, his mouth isn't moving like he's talking. And according to the defense, it appears that several people could be possibly in that 43-second video, which now we go back to the state's own investigation, 2 to 6
Right.
people be involved. So is part of the reason y'all want to keep everything so close to the vest, because you absolutely know there's another person involved, is the DNA that you do have, and you know it's not Rick Allen's, belongs to your second perpetrator. And then my mind goes back to, well, with 61 confessions, but never once Rick alluded to anybody else being involved. He could have been terrified to say there was, especially
Right.
if, say like ritual things were happening. He could have been scared, not to say anything. So it's just such a lot of us have speculated, though, that those voices that you hear, the voice you hear is not the person in the video.
Right.
And
I
it's a
see Anna's
shame that,
comment.
yeah.
When you listen to it, it clearly says guys down the hill.
Yeah,
So
and it says I think it's gonna say girls. So, at some point in the 43-second video, you will hear the word girls. You're also gonna hear the word guys, and that probably is 2 different people speaking, right? Because one
right,
person may refer to them as girls, and one might have the habit of saying, "Guys, come on," or
guys.
"Guys, let's go,"
Yeah.
whatever. So, because for them, when that audio first came out, it didn't have the word guys attached to it. It was just down the hill,
Down the hill.
down the hill. If you go to the FBI website or to the other websites and you pull up the original, it'll tell you it was literally we get this loop video, him walking, and then we get down the hill, and we're all like, well, is there more to that? We can barely make, that's just a couple
Right.
of words. Can we hear a little more? And maybe that'll jog a memory in town or anywhere, that with somebody they may know. So then they come back in, they add guys down the hill. And then everyone was like, well, is that 2 different people speaking?
Right.
Or is it one? It could be 2. It's just such a crazy thing that now we all have lots of questions about your 43-second audio and what it actually says or shows. And I know that the families had asked at one point for more to be released of that, but the sheriff decided against it. that he didn't think they really wanted what could be heard on that video to be out there in public. At that point, the girls were gone. The family had accepted it and knew that this
Mhm.
stuff would come out eventually. And I think they were okay with putting whatever you need to out there to help find this guy,
Mhm.
right? As a mom, as a parent, I would be at that point. I'll be like, look, I understand that it's my child. I get that video's not really nice, but I need it out there so people can maybe understand and hear that voice and say, hey, I know that guy.
Definitely.
Because it may, even if you just down the hill, really wasn't enough to tell, you
No,
know.
that it's where they kind of just added. Did they just add it in there, or that's where it is? It
A
all?
lot of
Did they splice it and then put
that's
it?
what people
That's what I'm
speculate that it
wondering.
was. That's what people speculate that it was spliced in the guy, especially the guy's part. You know what I mean? That
Mhm.
they just added that right there to say, guys, down the hill. Guys could have been said at any point during that 43-second video conversation or whatever was
Right.
going on during that time. Now
Mhm.
they say that so the Snapchat went out at there was two Snapchat photos that went out at 2:05, 2:07. One was just of the bridge itself and one was of Abby on the bridge. There's clearly nobody behind her. And there was clearly nobody on that bridge in the first one that went out because it was literally just the bridge.
Mhm.
Leading me to believe the guy's already on the south end behind them that direction. But the video at 2:13, it allegedly ends with guys down the hill. After you hear that, that's apparently when it cuts off. But there's still
Huh.
a full 43 seconds that we have no clue what's on it.
Right.
Um, Yeah, so we don't know if it's girls, guys, what who the heck even said it.
Right. Well, everybody's going to be paying attention to that. That's there because that's all we've heard.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all
So
we've
let me
heard.
pull
So
up
that'll be paid attention to.
let me pull up the opening statements here. Oh goodness, I hope I can see that good on my laptop. Oh yeah, okay. I won't be so blind. Um, and it's interesting too. I've heard a couple of attorneys talk about how well Nick McClelland did on his opening, but they were each allotted like an hour on their opening statements, and Nick took around 13 to 15 minutes. That was it.
Yeah, I heard that.
Compared to the defense's 1 hour.
Mhm.
That's a big difference. Like, whoa, you summed it all up in a 15-minute opening statement. Okay. So let me get this screen up and we'll look at that for a minute. And you guys have to let me know if you can see it okay and all the good things. It's hard for me to tell in this StreamYard if you guys can see that good enough. Let me make it a little bigger. Okay. I'm not going to read stuff like, he wanted to play a video, but it didn't work and all that good stuff. Let's try to just get on down to where he starts talking.
Right.
Okay. Uh, she said it was large, and I think these came from Andrea's notes. It was largely a recap of his many opening statements that he gave. Thank you, Mudbug. It is showing. You guys can see it. Okay.
Mhm.
Let me throw up a little warning here, guys. Little content warning in case it gets graphic. I mean, we're not going to be discussing too much graphic, but kind of. It is what it is. So told the jury a couple of days ago that the case is about a bullet, a bridge guy, and a brutal murder of two girls. Okay, we knew that. We all know the unseasonably warm day they took a walk on the Monon High. Joe's not here, but I better say it right.
Monon.
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 Oh my God. It'll be like later, Salty.
He'll,
You
he'll
know
stop. He'll stop everything he's doing and get in chat just to say you said it incorrectly.
better. And I've told you 50 times and you're still saying it
Right.
wrong. Okay. All right. So it is the Monon High Bridge, guys. And that's coming straight from a Hoosier themselves.
Mhm.
um, Now, Kelsey dropped the girls off that morning at the Mears farm, and like for the longest time, it was hard to figure out where the heck the Mears farm was into uh, relation to the bridge, right? If you just go straight to a Google map, it doesn't really show you the Mears farm. There are some good videos out there that show you footage of the farm. It was an older farm, but it's literally right across from the trailhead that leads to the Monon. Is where Kelsey dropped them off, which is also by the
Hmm.
Hoosier Harvester, and the CPS building and all that. And the Hoosier Harvester is where they have the camera that sees Betsy Blair, one of the witnesses, car pass by. It sees Kelsey's car pass by. It also apparently picks up Rick Allen's car, and that's how the state intends to use part of that, is to show, I mean, not the state, I'm sorry, the defense, as to like timeline, is when Rick Allen, was he seen on that camera? Was his car seen on that camera like other people's, Um,
Hmm.
especially if one of the witnesses says she saw a man walking down 300 North. Well, and he was muddy and bloody and blue coat and blue jeans, but her original statement, according to the defense, didn't mention bloody. It just was muddy, which we've heard that a while back anyway. And the coat was tan. Okay, so either way, if you got a guy walking down that road toward that CPS building, you're going to see them on that Hoosier Harvester
On the
video.
camera, right?
If it can see the cars coming and going that pass it, it may not be able to zoom in on the guy's face and tell me anything about him, but you're going to see a man walking past that camera on that little road, you know?
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to take a look at that. Well, we're not going to get to look at it, but it's going to be interesting to hear about it,
Yeah.
about that footage.
Crazy.
And even with the
So
media
frustrating.
being allowed to look at the exhibits at the end of the day for 15 minutes, they can't photograph any of it. They can't,
Right.
take it out of there and make copies of the exhibits to come out and share with the public. I guess we'll have to wait till after the trial for all that, but it's going to be crazy. But it's going to be interesting to see what does come out of that video footage that they got from the Hoosier Harvester, because
Hmm.
that absolutely matters, as far as timeline goes and what could be seen and what wasn't seen.
Right.
So we know that Abby took the photos of the bridge and posted it to Snapchat, and that the girls were crossing the bridge, and it was allegedly it was Abby's first time, and she was fearful, taking her time and being careful, where Libby was just like the little daredevil. She's done it several times and she wasn't afraid of it. Let's go. There's always that, in your friend group, you got that one brave soul. My
Right.
sister was that brave soul. I was the one going to stand there and watch her go first.
Hmm.
So if something happens, it happens to her, not me. That's just the way it was. And she was my little
Right.
sister. It's still that way to this day. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
honey, you go ahead and go first. I'm gonna sit here and watch. 'Cause
Two of my kids are the same way.
I don't want to get hurt because it hurts, and I don't
Yeah.
want to get in trouble because who likes that? So you go right ahead, baby girl.
Right.
Um. So on. Well, I don't want to just summarize. What did the man say? Let me go back up just a little bit. These trucks need to go home, and they need to get on my nerves a little bit tonight.
It's Sunday.
Okay.
Maybe just chill.
I know. That's what I was saying. It's Sunday night. I thought it would be like super chill outside. They all be at home getting ready for their week. Whatever. No, they're running up and down the road instead. And I'm in the damn country. Thank God, because I don't have those sirens and all that crap going off
Oh
constantly.
yeah, that's worse.
Oh my God, that annoyed me when I lived in the city during the pandemic, and I tried to sit outside for fresh air and peace, and you just hear
Then it
sirens
sets the
all the
dogs
time.
off and just
Wow.
yeah, you do chain
Ugh,
reaction.
yeah. It's like I just want peace and quiet, people. Okay. So it was unseasonably warm. We knew that. Okay. Kelsey drove the girls to the trail. Libby was in the front seat and Abby was in the back seat. Libby took a selfie in the car on the way to the trails. The photo was shown to the jury. Yeah, Mudbug, that's an interesting point. Let's get that up on the screen as well. You would think that more people would have seen Rick Allen and would have been able to describe him than what actually saw him. Do you know what I mean? Um, a lot of people saw a lot of people. They all saw each other and things of that nature.
Right.
Did he spend his entire time on the bridge so nobody really saw him? If it was him and he went down the hill, across the creek, and onto Ron Logan's property, the exit via the cemetery, which is what people speculate, that he exited the scene via the cemetery and then took a left and continued down 300 north back toward the CPS building where he was parked. If he did, he's still going to be seen on that Hoosier Harvester camera walking past the building. So it's crazy that not more people actually saw him that didn't see him. I don't know.
Hmm.
So we all have been aware for a long time, but it has been confirmed. Abby did not have a phone. They brought this interesting point up during the openings that Libby's phone was set up so that Abby's fingerprint could unlock Libby's phone. Boy, I know that people kind of just like, what? Why even say that? What does that mean? Um, it, did that fingerprint, is that what unlocked the phone at 4:30 in the morning and made it come back on and all this stuff? They were trying
Right.
to, so we understand they were trying to establish how close the girls were. That's been established already. And I know
Hmm.
you need to reiterate that to the jury who doesn't know, but I didn't see
So
the
why use
point of,
that as an example? That's weird.
right?
Hmm.
Unless you plan to bring that up later,
Right.
that, I mean, where are we
I
going
guess
with
we'll
this,
see.
Nick?
Yeah.
We'll never know about Nick, where he's going with anything. He
He
might
may
even
not know
forget
either. So
he might forget he even said that here in a little bit. We don't know. The judge might say, no, you can't talk about that. No, she
yeah.
won't with him. She'll be like, I want to hear more.
Right. Oh, they used both their fingerprints at the same time to unlock the phone. They morphed.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't find that unusual for two best friends. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If I'm asleep and you want to grab my phone, here, you have at it. You've got your own profile. You
Hmm.
can open it. Now, was Keegan Klein communicating with both of these girls or just one? As far as we know, it was just Abby's phone that he communicated with, but that doesn't mean it wasn't both girls. You know what I mean?
Right.
Uh,
Using they could have just been using one um profile.
yeah.
Maybe both communicating under that one profile. I mean, it's possible.
Now they say it. Okay, so the man told the girls to go down the hill and they complied, and that's when the video cuts off. Nick also says that the intention for Rick Allen was to essay the girls, but he was interrupted at 3:30 when the guy at the end of the private drive got home. Well, if he got home at 3:30, even with a loud truck, and it could be heard, through the woods, echoing, whatever, that means from 2:13 when that video cut off, and they went down the hill, across the drive, across the creek, up to Ron Logan's property. There's a whole hour. Give them that 15 minutes grace to get on down there and get across. So now you're on the property at 2:30 where the girls were found. You got a whole hour before Brad Weber comes home and interrupts you with his loud sounding vehicle to get home. What do you mean that he was going to essay them and was interrupted? What was going on during that hour?
Right.
He had a whole hour, according to the state's timeline, in the woods alone with these girls, and nothing was happening except slitting their throats. I don't mean to be graphic, guys, but that's what happened. So,
Right.
um, that didn't make any sense to me. That how could you assume that was the intention? As the prosecution, you don't. You assume that's the intention is to essay them, but then you're telling us that video cut off at 2:13, so they're in the woods by 2:30 ish, but he's interrupted by 3:30. So I'm not sure what was taking place during that hour.
Right.
That you had time to do it, or at least start what you wanted to do. And there's been no evidence that the girls were assaulted in that way.
That's what I mean. He would
So
have to. He's going to have to show evidence to that to prove it. His
yeah,
theory.
let me pull my chat back down here again. It went boom. Um Yeah, Mudbug, there's a lot of different facts that go into it. You're fine. I love to see what you guys say and have to say about it. Just reading the comment. So let's see. Yeah, Liggett testified between 2:30 and 3 p.m. But Nick McClellan says Rick Allen's intentions was to essay the girls, but he was interrupted at 3:30 when the Weber homeowner got home. So again, that's not quite making sense to me in my brain yet.
Right.
So they also say that the search was suspended at 2 a.m. and resumed at 6 a.m. Well, we know officially the official search was called off long before 2 a.m.
Wasn't
It was
it
called off
mid
before midnight.
midnight? Yeah.
Around 11:30ish. It was getting cold. It was super dark. The Now even Mullen will tell you, has stated in his testimony, he thought the girls were fine, that they would just come back home like the next morning. I think a lot of the people in the beginning, the authorities, I should say, not a lot of people, not the parents,
Hmm.
but the authorities believed the girls could have just took off, and they'll
But
come
they
back
have no
home tomorrow.
history of doing so, and even the parents said that wasn't like them. So I've never heard of a search being called off in the middle of the night like that. Usually, they continue till either they find them
hmm
or the next day or whatever. But
Yeah,
that's
even in the
crazy.
cold, you're gonna I
Mhm.
think your natural instinct's gonna be to want to stay out there. Now, of course,
Right.
if it gets like blizzard conditions and it's dangerous for everybody, you have to
Mhm.
make a call at some point. Okay, we have the Gulf of Mexico here, and when we have swimmers go missing, it is not easy to call those searches off.
Right.
Those are the authorities who are out there searching, because we got all kinds of military bases around me. They pull out all the stops, the Coast Guard, everybody's out there trying to find these missing boaters, missing swimmers. And trust me, it happens all summer long. We have so many tourists who don't understand the Gulf of Mexico. They don't get rip currents. They just don't know. So they're out there and they find themselves in trouble. We have kayakers who disappear, unfortunately, more times than I can hear to count. It is difficult for those searchers to call that search off when the conditions are not right for them to even be safe to be out there anymore.
Mhm.
That wasn't so much the case that night in Delphi, because the families did try to stay out. And I think the families were the ones that wrapped up around 2 a.m. and decided to go home for a little while. Now, there were some
Mhm.
volunteers that did stay out past the time the official search was, called off. But by
Right.
the time the morning came, they were all right back out there again.
Right.
Yeah, okay, yes, so technically Brad Weber wasn't the homeowner, but Brad Weber was living there, and Brad Weber, the state of Indiana, kept his firearm for 6 straight months. I'm not accusing anybody else other than Rick Allen. I'm also going by facts based out of the documents. Now, the state has come out and said that they did keep Brad Weber's gun for 6 months, and they did not rule out that the unspent round came from that firearm. So,
It's crazy they kept his gun so long on an unspent.
allegedly it was in his car or truck, whatever vehicle. I'll just say
Mhm.
vehicle because I don't know which one it was. It was a vehicle, and the weapon was in his vehicle. And we know that when the officer, what was his name? I'm going to say it wrong. I have to go right down. So the officer that took Mike Petty's phone call, and he went out to the farm or the Weber property, but he didn't search the outbuildings and stuff, because you got to have a warrant to get into these outbuildings. They got to be specific to say outbuildings, right? Or
Mhm.
the home itself, and you got to list what you're looking for.
Right.
But when he did drive down there down the private drive and under the bridge, he did approach the home and knock on the door and tell them, hey, these girls are missing. Have you seen or heard anything? And they're like, no. And he said, do you mind if I look around the property? And they gave him permission. So he did look around the outer, but he didn't see anything out of the ordinary. or that
Mhm.
gave him any reason to believe he needed to search more. Now, they did go back to that property with a search warrant, and they did conduct a search, of the outbuildings there. They did do the search at Ron Logan's property as well, and I believe there was another search also. Was it the Sanders home? There was a third search as well.
Mhm.
Another person's house that was searched as well. So yeah, he was a 40 cal exactly that came out of Weber's vehicle. Yes, Maxwell. Yes, thank you. See, you guys are good at remembering things that I might forget. There's so darn much with
They're
this
on it.
case that you try to keep up all the names and the places and um, all the things that you know. And you got like me, you got a stack of notes in your notebook. It's like get sitting down and getting them all. So there was an unspent for. Hang on, I jumped ahead. I'm so sorry. Libby was found. Now, trigger warning, guys. This is going to describe the scene a little bit. Um, there were photos leaked very, very early on of the clothing in the creek, and you can clearly see Libby's tie-dye shirt in the creek, and you can see one of her Nikes in the creek, and what appears to be a gray jacket. Now, Libby had on the sweat jacket that zipped, and you could tell that from the Snapchat photo. I'm sorry, that was Abby. Libby had on the pullover that didn't zip, that she got out of her sister's car. So I think the gray item in the water was possibly Abby's, because when they found
Mhm.
the girls, Libby was found nude, covered in blood, and her throat was cut in several places. Blood on the ground and blood on a tree nearby. Abby was wearing her own underwear and shoes, but no socks. And Libby's shirt, it says shirt and jeans, but I'm assuming that means the sweatshirt, because we know Libby's tie dye was found in the creek. Now, here's my other problem. If you got both of these girls unclothed, and you had to unclothe Libby and Abby, so if they're both unclothed and your intention is to SA, but then you're interrupted, when did you tell Abby to put clothes back on?
Right.
And why, did she put Libby's on because they were just so convenient right there? I mean, what was the point? If you're in a hurry to get out of there, what was the point of doing that?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I hear you, fair winds. Fair maiden winds. So the rest of the girls' clothing was found in the creek. For one of the shoes was in the creek, and one was under Abby with the phone. And the girl, there was the unspent 40 caliber. So they took Libby's phone and they processed it. And apparently they've been trying to process that phone for years. They had new data come out, in the beginning they did their thing to the phone. They had some new data come out in 2022, or 2022 I think it was. And we are still, as far as the 3-day, hold on, loud car. So when the 3-day hearing happened, the marathon hearings, um, they testified then they were still waiting on even newer data to come out with the phone. So we'll have to wait and see what that's going to show us, when the trial progresses. Um, so the witnesses began to come forward. 3 girls on the trail took a photo on a bench that was located east of the Freedom Bridge. The 3 girls ran into an unfriendly man who was walking with purpose. We've heard that for a long time. Betsy Blair, she saw a
Okay.
man on the platform of the bridge who is Bridge Guy. Now,
I have a
Betsy,
question real quick.
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you
No, no,
before
no,
I
you're
forget.
good. Go ahead.
So, see where it says he was walking with a purpose. Does he
Uh-huh.
look like he's walking with a purpose in that video? If that's the bridge guy?
To me, it looks like he's just walking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on a loop, so it's kind of hard to tell anything, but
Right.
it just appears to be
But usually
walking.
somebody's walking with the purpose. They're walking faster. They're, you know what I mean? Like you're intent on getting somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah. I just wanted to bring
Yeah,
to
it's
attention.
insane how to make that crime scene make sense in your head. Um, as far as putting clothes back on Libby. I'm sorry, Abby. I keep saying they're getting them mixed up, but to reclothe her if you're in a hurry and you were startled by something or interrupted, as Nick puts it. What was the? I just don't understand it unless you put another element into the crime. Then it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense for her to be reclothed if you're looking at a certain thing. But for somebody who's attempting to SA somebody in the woods and you've already got them stripped down, but now you're interrupted because you heard a noise, you need to get the heck out of there. But let me take the time to put this one some clothes on. It makes no sense for
Right.
that to even happen. Now, Betsy Blair is the lady who gave us young bridge guy. She literally stood just feet away from him on platform one. And after the original bridge guy sketch was released, the older version, and um, she went back to the authorities, and she's like, look, you guys have had 2 years to try to capture this guy, no luck. Where's my sketch? Where's the version of the person I saw that day? Because who's to
Yeah.
say that wasn't a person involved? And then they came out and released, that's how we got the young bridge guy. So that's who Betsy Blair is.
Well,
And
Anna says they said not with the purpose.
it's not
Is
what
that
they
something
said.
that they said? That's not what
Yeah,
they said with the purpose.
they've always said it. Even if you go back to the I believe it's in the PCA, the probable
Mm-hmm.
cause, when they described the witnesses who saw the man they saw, somebody claimed he was walking with a purpose. So I think that's where
Okay.
that originally came from. And we'll have to one day this week we'll come live and I do want to review the probable cause affidavit. I've had it for a very long time, but some of these things I haven't reviewed in so long. Remember, I
Mm-hmm.
was sharing you some footage with you from
Yeah.
around the area in the Discord there, and I was
Yeah.
like, I haven't even reviewed this stuff in a year or more in some it because I've been following it for so long. There's just so much I've reviewed and got myself as familiar as I could with the area.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not from somewhere and you can't see it, it's hard to grasp it. And I remember when I first learned of the drive underneath the bridge, the driveway there, I was like, oh, that's weird that who's to say they didn't leave like that, without
Mm-hmm.
knowing anything at the time about.
Oh, okay, Anna. She said she agreed with me and said it didn't look like he was walking with the purpose.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
I get it.
I kinda thought
Thank
that's what
you.
she was I thought that's what she meant.
I misread
Yeah.
it.
So, let's go down a little bit further. So Sarah Carball is the, witness who saw the man walking on the side of the road, and she now this I don't know where slaughtered a pig came from, but allegedly she, her original statement, according to the defense, and we'd heard this a long time ago as well, just was tan jacket, blue jeans, and muddy. And then as time progressed, the states like her statement was blue jacket, blue jeans, muddy and bloody. So only Sarah knows what Sarah said.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be really
Wow.
interested. If I'm the defense, I'm wanting to call Sarah to the stand at some point to talk about that
Mm-hmm.
statement
If
and
she lets him.
clarify, right? If they're not going to use, bridge guy sketches and all the things, I need to call Sarah to the stand because I want her to tell me in her own words what she saw that day
Mm-hmm.
and get it straight out of her mouth and not relayed to me through another party. Um, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we know that they claim this is what the state has come out and put out in a statement that they discovered the bridge guy. Hey, Joe, there you are. Um, Once they went back to the beginning and started going back to their investigation, they found that tip. So they call Rick Allen. Well, actually, Rick Allen gave them a statement in the beginning. He placed himself there on the bridge. They called Rick Allen to interview him again in 2022, and he said he was wearing the blue or black jacket, Carhartt jacket, and jeans. They searched his home and they found the 40 caliber gun, the clothes, and some knives. They took a variety of knives out of Rick Allen's house. There were several, but to me, that's not a big deal. There's a lot of guys with a lot of knives. Um, they tested the bullet and it came from Richard Allen's gun. They interviewed Richard Allen again and had no explanation for how the bullet could have gotten at the scene, and he was arrested. And then McClellan goes on to tell them that how while he was incarcerated, he told the investigators what they already knew, that he killed the girls, and he gave details on how and why. Well, he also gave details on what didn't happen. There were things he said in those statements allegedly that didn't even happen at all. So there's that.
Right.
So while incarcerated, he told investigators what they already knew. We just said that. He gave details of how and why. There were not These were not from an interrogation. They were volunteered and spontaneous. These contained details only the killer would know. So again, I'm going to ask the prosecution now. Well, you never once thought to say, do you want to make that a formal statement? Call your lawyer down here and tell him you're ready to confess and you want to give me a formal statement now, because then we can talk about things. But that never happened. Then they go on to say that the killer hid in plain sight for 5 years. I guess because nobody thought he looked like the bridge guy or sounded
Right.
like him. With multiple people coming
Mhm.
in and out of the CVS, even speaking with the man, no one ever thought that. So
Right.
then yeah. So the state didn't have a really strong opening argument to me. It was just kind of
Right.
not, I don't know.
General.
Yeah, a generalized statement. He's going to be the guy. We got him on video. We got these. Well, I can't say sketches now because you're not going to use them. You got some eyewitnesses, or you apparently you don't, because you can't call them in there now, because the ones that you did speak with that did see things, you use sketches from them people, and now that's all irrelevant. So who do you have? No other eyewitnesses apparently, except for your bridge guy video, um, and your bullet.
Yeah.
There will be reason. So Andrew Baldwin moves into his statements, and we know that it was about an hour long. Yeah, Fair Maiden wins. The Carhartt coats do not have a Velcro center closure over the center zipper in front. BGs. There's a lot of hunters in my area, and all these dudes wear Carhartt's boots, carry their weapons, and all the things. Indiana's not much different. So there's a lot of people out there. Yeah, it's so hard to tell from that dang grainy video that we see, that little loop of, is to really what type of jacket it is. Is it people have speculated there's a lot of layers underneath there to make himself look bigger and all this stuff. I don't know, so much speculation about it. It's just really hard to tell. But I couldn't tell if it was a Carhartt jacket or not, honestly. It just looked like a blue jacket. Okay, so the defense comes in with their opening statement. And they start out with Richard Allen is completely innocent. There will be reasonable doubt from the evidence and lack of evidence. And he asked the jury to wait. The defense wants the truth to come out in the court for the jury and the families. The truth is that the investigation was messed up from the beginning and up to as recently as the last few days, all the way up to trial. So in the beginning, evidence was lost, and they have come out and said that themselves. The state has come out and said that. Key witness interviews are gone forever, and they didn't even write down the names of the people they interviewed. There's no way to recreate some of the early investigation steps that the law enforcement took. Months later, they lost more interviews from a period of time between April 29th of 2017 through June 2nd of 2017.
Makes
I
you
don't
wonder
know.
who they interviewed during that time.
Well, Brad Holder and
That's what
Patrick
I mean.
Westphal. Yeah, they come out. They said Brad Holder's interview is gone forever.
Hmm.
And it's like, how? What? You know? And you don't want us to ask questions about that or wonder why or why wasn't
Right.
there a where's the written narrative that should have been attached to that? Because I'm gonna tell you, over there in Idaho, Ann Taylor don't want she wants it all. Any email communications these investigators have with each other, all written narratives, all official statements. She wants every damn thing they got. Don't leave
Mm-hmm.
nothing out. But over
Right.
here, she'd be mad. She'd be big mad if they'd come out and said, "Well, sorry, man, but we lost it all. We don't even have that." She's, excuse me,
Or
my
even if the
client's
judge
got it.
came out and
Yeah,
said, "We're not allowing this, that," and I don't see her just standing by and not taking it up further. But there's that.
yeah, right. Yeah, Carhartts are very durable. They last forever. Um, so in the middle of the investigation, they got into a turf war with the FBI and kicked them out. The FBI assisted with the extraction of Libby's phone, and police kicked the FBI out before discussing the FBI's findings from that extraction. Now, why would you do that?
Right.
If that's the case, and they can talk about that and prove that. Um, I know just from the Idaho 4 case alone, and knowing what I've known about trials, FBI is not going to share all their information. Like they had to actually go and they got the summary reports from the FBI over there and they got some narratives, but Anne wanted way more and they had to actually file subpoenas to get it. And the judge over there said, "Fine, I'll sign them, get them to me." And he did.
Mm-hmm.
And for
Right.
her to, even though you still subpoena them, you still may not get what you're asking for, but it can be done. But to come in and say, "We don't agree with you guys, we don't need you here," is insane to me because you probably do need them really bad, especially
Mm-hmm.
with their capabilities to get into those phones and to get into the data.
Exactly.
Why would you
I
not?
just don't understand. Why wouldn't you want, being that there's such a small town, why wouldn't you want those additional resources? Is beyond me.
Exactly. And this phone's about to be a big part of your evidence. Not only was there communication with Keegan Klein and Anthony Shots on there, but there's Bridge Guy video and Bridge Guy audio,
Mm-hmm.
alleged audio from Bridge Guy. So why would you not want them to come in and help you get a data from that phone, especially if there's discrepancies about how long that phone was out there? Was it turned off? Why did it come back on? All these things. And of course, as time progresses and technology's gotten better, they're still doing tests on that phone from what we understand. So it's going to be interesting to see how much more they try to keep out or bring in, at which
Mm-hmm.
points. But it's really odd to not want the FBI's help. Now we do know that the FBI in the beginning, one of the investigators was convinced it was Ron Logan, and the search went there. But we also know that other FBI agents in the investigation was going down the Odinist angle. So
Right.
even if you didn't like what they were bringing to you, like I'm gonna be like, "Oh, that's scary. I don't like that," but I still need to look at it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I still have to take it seriously and give it a fair chance. And I guess once
Mm-hmm.
they talked to Holder and Westfall, they're like, "Oh, nothing to see here. Goodbye, FBI. You don't know what you're talking about now. You don't know our
They
people.
don't want to have none of
We
it.
don't know your
Yeah.
people. That's the problem.
Exactly.
What are your people about?" Um, uh, so as of 2 days ago, law enforcement is scrambling because there is a hair in Abby's hand. It was wrapped around her fingers and had a root. DNA was extracted from it. The analyst testified that the hair might be from a relative of Libby. If it's not Libby's hair, if it's not Abby's hair, it is female. They will still need to complete testing. They will test mom, grandmom, sister, and somebody like that to be able to tell if there's family of Libby. Now, all those women in that family are going to share that mitochondrial, how do you pronounce it correctly? Mitochondrial
My,
DNA,
yeah.
right? They're all going
Mm-hmm.
to share that. So if it did come from somebody in the family, I can understand that because it could have been on the shirt. Yes, and it could be transfer DNA from the shirt to her hand, but would it be wrapped around or entwined? Or would it just be like, you know what I mean? I need to
Mm-hmm.
know now, where's the picture of that hair in that hand?
Yep.
What do you mean was wrapped around the finger, or it
And did we
clutched
get
in
a
the hand?
picture of how it was in her hand, or just that it was in her
Yeah.
hand, and then now we have, you know what I mean?
Right, because there's a
There's a
difference. I mean,
picture.
when you put on, I shed hair all the time, and I'll find them, on me constantly. Like, damn, hair, get out of here. But it's not going to be all wrapped up in my hand, and this is
Mm-hmm.
going to be there. So it makes a big difference, and I'm going to need to see photos. And from what I gather, the jury's already asking questions, so hopefully they'll have a lot of good questions and follow ups, to try to get the real answers. Hey, Bridget, come on in. Welcome in. JM, how are you? Okay, in the 7 years, they never turned in Becky or Kelsey's DNA to see if it matches. They had the DNA but didn't turn it in. What? Why would you not?
Right.
We don't have the results back yet, but we are hoping to have them soon. Truth can come out on the phone. That's part of the defense theme. Baldwin had a phone he continued to show the jury. Oh, that's just her commentary. I get it. Forensic data on the phones don't lie or cheat, he said. When you find out what's on Libby's phone, the state's case is going to start to fall apart.
Hmm.
Yeah, let's see that phone data then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there were a couple of guys from the Indiana State Police who were in charge of the phone dumps and data, and they were ill equipped to understand it. Now, see, that's part of the problem over there in the Idaho 4 case is you got deputies, detectives
Right.
entering the phone data. Well, all he literally did was enter the phone data the FBI gave him into that system to create what they were their map that they created. So, you know, if they
Yeah.
were ill equipped to understand it, all the more reason to have the FBI in there to help you
Mm-hmm.
understand it, correct?
Right.
Like if I
Exactly.
don't understand something, can y'all help me explain it or help me get there? Or I'm gonna go do some research and figure it out or try
Then
to
your
at
question
least.
is, why don't you want them to explain it? Would be my question.
Exactly.
Seeing it from here, you know what I mean?
Well, okay, so that's why I keep going back to where I'm at. Either they're trying to cover up, they did a really
Mm-hmm.
horrible job investigating, or they're covering up something more sinister. We just don't know yet which one,
Right.
and I don't want to be like out of the gate all
Like
accusatorial, but
everything's,
come
yeah.
on. This everything I'm going to speak about came from your own investigation, so it's not like we dreamt it up or we made it up or we all found out there was some crazy ass tunnels and now we're running down that rabbit hole with you and all this stuff. It's not
Mm-hmm.
that. We are literally looking at the stuff that came out of your own investigation. Whether it panned out or not, we don't know because you decided you didn't need to keep all the evidence in the case,
So who
which
discovered this hair that hadn't been tested yet?
that's a really good question, Butterfly. Unless it was listed, as part of the evidence and the state and the defense saw that
This
in the discovery and was
discovering.
like,
That's
well,
what
hey,
I'm
wait a minute, did
wondering.
you ever test this hair,
Right.
this strand of hair? And the state's like, no, we just didn't. So
Oh,
we assumed it was no big deal. We just assumed it was transfer off the sweater. Well, what do you mean you assume? Not, I'm going to want that
every
tested.
little thing. Yeah, every little thing could mean something. It could take one little thing to break a case or make a case. You would think they would want it
Do you
tested.
reckon that 20 grand spent on genetic genealogy is something the defense was actually doing? I don't know if they would give the defense that much money to work with.
Right.
They would the state, they would probably, but I don't know if they would the defense. I don't really know how that. So did the defense initiate testing on that hair? Because now if I'm the defense and I find you got a hair and you never tested it, I'm calling for testing.
Right. Well, when they listed those, what they spent, was that a combination, or was that just the state list of expenses?
Right. I just realized,
I
y'all, my
don't know.
laptop's getting low on battery, and I'm like, this thing must suck because it don't seem to keep a good battery. I'm like, it's gonna force me to go in the house, and I don't want to do that, but I will. If I get in there, I might look at that bed and go, "Oh, that looks real inviting. Just let me lie
Right.
down for a minute." Like, I'm asleep, man. I'm not even gonna tell you my little fiasco. My son's got a friend staying here, and he's got a cat. The cat stays out in the pole barn in this little cat house thing he's got set up here. Well, at
Hmm.
some point late last night, he brought that cat in the house. I didn't know it. Well, I have a cat.
Oh no.
My son has a cat, and she's in my bedroom. She won't leave my room. Every now and then she will, but 9
Mhm.
times out of 10, she's gonna stay right in there with me. She doesn't wanna come out.
Right.
All of a sudden, I hear a noise, and I open my eyes, and I'm like, "I'm trying to go to sleep, cat. What's your problem?" She is standing up like a statue, like, just
Oh
standing
my
there,
gosh.
and then
That would freak me out.
she did. She pounced, and she took off, and then she'd come back, and my son came walking in. I was like, "Dude, what is wrong with your cat? She's crazy." He's like, "No, mom, he let his cat in the house." I was like, "What? Your brother's gonna freak out, that cat's in his house."
Mhm.
Because the dog was in the room with my son, and, I was like, "Whatever." So, I guess I went on to sleep, but I woke up again right at daylight to my cat flipping out again. My door was open, and that dude's cat done come in my room, went under my bed, and my cat wasn't having it. I went in there, I was like, "Dude, you gotta get up and get under my bed and get your cat out of here," you know? And
Mhm.
I was like, "That cat was in here all night." He's like, "Oh, it was freezing." Like, "It's Florida, dude. It wasn't freezing. It was chilly. It's only gonna get colder, so you gotta make some other arrangements. That's not gonna work. I'm not gonna be sleep
Yeah.
interrupted or deprived because of some crazy ass animals. It's not gonna work for me." So you'd be like,
Oh, that would freak me out in the middle of the night, cat standing up. Like, what is that?
I
Oh
know.
my goodness.
I'm sitting there looking at this cat going, "What in the hell?" She was just standing there like straight up, and I was like, and wasn't even moving a muscle. And then she pounced. I was like, "Oh Lord, it's
Half
fixing to
asleep,
be on."
wake
Like, was I dreaming or whatever, you know?
right, nightmare.
So, the state's theory is that Abby and Libby. Oh, did I skip a part? I'm sorry, guys. I got sidetracked. My little story. I don't mean to do that. Um, It's important because the phone data is accurate and reliable and is going to be incredibly important. He asked the jury to hold the state to their theory of the case because he contends that they are going to have to change it as the evidence comes out. The state's theory is that Abby and Libby were dead by 4 p.m., at least on the 13th of February. They don't move, phone doesn't move, they are killed and abandoned and left in place. And the phone was under Abby's body the whole time from 3:30 until 4 p.m. Until they were discovered the following day at noon. Um, the state says Richard Allen arrived and parked at the CPS around 1:30 p.m. And we know this. If you guys don't know, the CPS building is just right down from the Hoosier Harvester store there. We'll have to get some visuals up so we can go over that area. Oh wait, I can't pull it up right now because I would love to show that. I do have it though. Um, it wasn't far from the where the drop off site was and where Richard Allen parked his car. According to the state, the car is parked there until sometime after 4 p.m. when Richard Allen left. Once Richard left, he didn't come back to the crime scene and he didn't take Libby's phone with him. Richard has never Richard was never on the trail at the same time as Abby and Libby. Witnesses describe a guy, bridge guy, as 5'11", which does not fit Richard's description. Richard arrived to the trails around noon or 12:30 and was gone from the trails by 1:30. Richard's car is gone by 2:15. Betsy Blair drove by the CPS lot around 2:15 and she saw one vehicle there. Now, Betsy has always maintained that that was a Mercury Comet, and she said that she knew that because it was like one her dad used to have. Now, those are very distinct looking cars, right? Like, you're
Mhm.
gonna know, like, especially if it's an
Right.
older model car like that and it's one you grew up knowing that your dad, because my dad was that way. So, but Betsy said that it was a Mercury Comet that looked the same as the one her dad had in the 60s. Rick drove a 2014 Ford Focus. Camera at the Hoosier Harvester shows Kelsey's car, that's Libby's sister who dropped them off, at 1:49 p.m. The girls were on the trail right after Betsy Blair. They basically followed Betsy Blair down the trail to the bridge. The girls passed Betsy Blair as Betsy was coming back from the bridge. Now, as far as we know, she's the only one that really sees the girls.
Mhm.
About 2:05, the girls were on the bridge, which makes sense because at 2:07, that's when we know that one Snapchat went out. Close to
Mhm.
halfway across the bridge, Libby was ahead. She turned around to take a picture of Abby. So now she's turning around facing Abby.
Right.
So if that's the case, coming north to south, when she turned around to get that picture, there's nobody behind them that we can see on that
Mhm.
bridge. So was he coming did he already cross the bridge and was on the south end, now turned around going back toward the north end? And so as she's facing Abby with her rear facing camera, did she film the guy? I don't know.
Right.
But if in
Right.
my mind, that's what would make sense to me, because I've always had a hard time with that image, wondering, well, where is this guy in relation to where Abby and Libby are on that bridge? Because I don't see anybody
Mhm.
behind her for the
Right.
whole stretch of the bridge. And AT&T is one of the better ones to get the records from their Mudbug. Law enforcement will tell you that. Attorneys will tell you that. Um, or I may have that backwards. There's one that doesn't like to give out a lot of data, and some phone companies do. um, well, it's going to be interesting to see what they can. What are they still trying to extract to this day from that phone? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
More accuracy as to why that phone came back on at 4:30 to solve that big
Maybe.
mystery. Is that where we're trying to get at? As far as still looking at that phone goes. So at 2:13, the abduction happens at the end of the bridge, and is caught on video. The video is not panoramic, so you won't see much. You can't see the water or the end of the bridge. You hear a voice telling the girls to go down the hill, but the man on the video, his mouth doesn't move. Therefore, the defense contends that there is more than one person. Okay, so we don't see a lot, but we just see a tiny bit. How? No, that's a little confusing there, but okay.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
If you only
Because
got
the
a,
abduction is caught on video, so that means you see more than one person. That means you see one person. It doesn't really say.
I guess the only person you can see on the actual video is the bridge guy, and you don't ever see his mouth move, but yet you hear the audio at the same time. You know what I mean? In
Mhm.
the loop, or not the loop, but of the 43 seconds, does it show this person walking for more than that little 2-second loop we saw, or however long it really was? I'm just saying. But if it's a whole full 43 seconds, how much of the guy do you actually have walking? How many seconds does it show? You know, is most of it just audio? What are we hearing on the audio? Because that
Mhm.
matters. 'Cause that can lend to multiple people being involved or being there.
Well, when it says the abduction happens, it's caught on video. So what happens that they're abducted? Is
That's
it
caught on that
gunpoint?
video,
Is it
right?
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. In
that
what
makes
manner? That's what I'm curious.
exactly, exactly. You just nailed it. So, okay, you hear a voice telling the girls to go down the hill, but the man on the video, his mouth doesn't move. Therefore, the defense contends it was more than one person. At the end of the bridge, you have the choice to go right or left. They went left down a steep incline. We don't know and can't see which, we don't know and can't show which way they went down for sure, but either way, they would have landed on an access road that goes under the bridge. This access road leads all the way to the home of a man named Brad Weber. It's possible there were other people or a vehicle making use of this access drive. Evidence suggests that the girls may have gotten into a vehicle down there on the access road. Evidence suggests that the girls may have gotten into a vehicle down there. Why do we hear a car door?
Right.
Do we hear a car door? Do we hear a car noise? What do we hear on that damn audio
Mm.
of that
Mhm.
43 seconds that lends that can show us some sort of proof that there was a vehicle down there? And even when I was having a conversation with Joe about that, okay, let's say that there was a car down there and they were forced into a car and taken away. If they weren't taken away for sexual assault, what was the purpose?
Right.
Because no evidence shows they were ever essayed to begin with. So if you got them in a car and you drove them away, brought back later, why? Just to see if you could get away with it? Abducting someone and then harming them because things got out of hand, they fought back or whatever, and now you got to go put them back. I mean, that doesn't make any sense either.
Right.
As
Right.
so that leaves one more theory as to why they could have or would have. You know that
Hmm.
the defense can't just bring up willy nilly. They got to have some proof behind it
Right.
or whatever. But that's still, I mean, that's a question. Were they ever put in a car and led away and to be brought back? And it's such a risky thing to bring them back because you were never going to be certain searchers weren't going to be out there all night.
Hmm. Yep.
So you know what I mean? Now, if I'm going to really consider that as a serious theory, I'm going to start poking holes in my own theory. And I do that a lot. I can get on a rabbit hole. You got to rule out things. So,
Yeah.
if I'm really going to put them in a car now and drive them away and then choose to bring them back like that and take that risk, why? Now, did they go
Yeah.
back to the area and they're like, oh gosh, look, nobody's out here. Okay, we're just going to leave them here. Or they could have got back out there and seen people were all over the scene and said, oh, we can't do this. We got to figure out something different. It's kind of weird that they would have even thought to take them back to the same area in case
Right.
people were out there looking. Because of course you got 2 teenage girls gone missing. People are going to be out looking.
And I also wonder, how the video was grainy. Was it because it was far away? I'm trying to remember. I've never had an iPhone 6, so I don't know how good the video was. So was it because he was like farther away that we couldn't get like good facial features in the video, or was he closer and that's just the way the camera
Did he ever
was?
get closer to them? Closer, yeah, and you would think if he got closer that they could see, if they saw that on that 43 seconds, that they would be able to get a more clear image of what he could have looked like. Is
Right, because
that
like
part of
even
what?
now, if I'm taking a video far away, it's not gonna look as good as if the person is
Right,
closer to me,
exactly.
or what the zoom capability was on that phone.
Yeah,
Because all that can make a difference.
exactly. It does make a difference. The photo of Abby is not on Libby's phone photo stamp. The photo, yeah, Mudbug. So Joe and I had a conversation about that too. What was it? Cicero, one of the two. I forget which one's the cell phone guy. That they couldn't find that photo on Libby's phone. Now I've got to get the transcripts and read his testimony clearly. Joe has the transcripts out of the 3-day hearing, and we need to get that up and present. It was Cecil. Thank you, Joe. I see you there. I'm about to read your comment next. But Joe does have the transcripts from that 3-day marathon hearing. So I will get with him and we'll get Cecil's testimony up and we'll review that. I think I'm going to go live in the morning, actually, and do a little more of the recap. Um, as we're waiting on things to come down through the pipe about what all is going on tomorrow in court, because they do go back in to session tomorrow. Um, Butterfly, that just distracted me.
I'm sorry.
I read that as it popped up there. I was like, wait, what? No, don't leave me.
I said
Gosh.
soon. I didn't say right now.
This laptop's going to die here in a little bit. I'll let y'all know before it does. But so yeah, it's a big discrepancy still as to what that phone is. So Joe says, in my opinion, I think the 43 seconds was the actual video of Bridge Guy coming towards them, and then Libby slipped the phone in her pocket. Yes, I agree. I agree with that. That she videoed until she couldn't anymore or whatever, and then that phone went into her pocket, and that's when you hear the voices. Because if you're about to kidnap someone and you realize they got a phone in their hand, aren't you going to try to take it?
Yep.
You don't want them to be able to call 911.
Well, not just that, how that it ended up back where they were.
That it was left with them is also a
Yeah,
big mystery.
that's what I meant. Yeah. That's what I
Mhm.
meant.
Because it makes no sense unless you are young and inexperienced and don't think about things like we
Mhm.
know youngsters can tend to do sometimes. They don't think things through very well. Oh, I just
And
got
maybe
my.
just powered on and looked through really quick to see what was on it.
Yeah. If I powered it on and I saw that video and I'm in that video, I'm taking that phone.
Right.
I'm not leaving it. You're not catching me like that. Phone's got to go all into the Wabash River along with that whatever Keegan Klein threw out there. That was me being a smart ass, guys. But no, it never made sense for the phone to be left there to begin with.
No.
And the fact that I remember when I first realized they got the video from Libby's phone, and I was thinking, well, damn. So they got her phone too. That the suspect didn't take the phone because generally that's what you would do if you're
Mhm.
if you thought about things, you're going to take it right with you because that's crucial evidence, or could be, that could link you to the crimes or link to where the girls are and all the things. Um,
Right.
it just never, the whole phone thing doesn't make sense to me.
No. Me either.
Yeah, I was just reading the comments again. There's a lot of
Mhm.
issues with that phone, and maybe that's why they're still continuing to this day to pull data from that phone that they couldn't get before. You
Back
know what I
then.
mean? With the
Right.
advancements of technology that can tell them more about what that phone was actually doing. Um, we know now, if like today's day, if you go and commit a crime today with that phone, you were going to know your step. I mean, that phone helped. Look at the Murdoch trial and all the data they were able to pull off his phone and the vehicles alone. If you go look at the
Mhm.
Stephon Stearns case, all the tracking they were able to do of that phone and his vehicle, you know what I mean? Um, like a lot of investigative techniques that could have been used didn't seem to get used thoroughly here. And I don't know why. Is it just, small department didn't know no better? All the more reason to keep the FBI in then
Right.
to help you. When you look closely at 32 frames, this walking 20. Okay, did you review Fair Maiden? Did you review some of that stuff on Mr. Steve's live like a long time ago with us, where we went frame by frame by frame looking at that? Because that sounds like what we discussed over at Mr. Steve's one night, True Crime Web. And by my notes of that, I felt like frame 36 was the more clearer image of that. I'm going to have to pull that up to present. Mr. Steve's already given us all kinds of permission to use his work and review. Um, yeah, it's been cut and manipulated. Well, especially with the loop, it's never made any darn sense um,
Mhm.
to make any sense out of it. Um, what I'm about to do though is Butterfly does have to go, and I need to get into the house and get this laptop on charge, and I'm going to jump onto my desktop. I may come back live a little bit later on. If so, I'll schedule it and put it out there. But I know there's some other lives popping off that we all probably want to get to and attend as well. But I'm going to come back in the morning and come out and do a little morning live. Not, 'cause there's some more things I do want to cover and go over in some of the testimony that came out with, especially Steve Mullen testimony, one of the detective in the case that was up there. Um, and it's just all like preliminary basic information leading up to where we're going to go with the case, and who all they're going to call tomorrow in testimony. Um, I don't know if Joe, are you planning to go tomorrow, or are you just going to let the others have at it and be like the rest of us and try to get what we can? Yeah, if you guys, if you sub, I always forget to say this, and I appreciate you for liking, sharing, and subbing. Tomorrow is to be determined if Joe's going to go or not. So when we find that out, we'll be sure and pass that information along. Um,
Mhm. Let me get his link.
yeah, we'll be following the Twitter feeds in the morning and then the media reports and things that come out, and probably have a recap tomorrow evening at some point. It depends on what all is going on and who all is going to be covering it. Because I do jump into other lives as well to get the updates, just like we're all having to do. But I know there's some conversations that Joe and I wanted to have with you guys as well, and with Butterfly. And so we'll get that together and try to get a show going for tomorrow evening to talk about some of the things. But if you want to hit the like button and sub up, that way you'll get your notifications, or check back to I try to keep the community tab updated with what was going on and what we're going to be doing between me and Joe and the channels, so that you guys can stay informed with that. Because we super
Mhm.
do, I know we both, Butterfly, Joe and I, we appreciate everyone coming in and participating
Definitely.
and being a part of it. It means a lot to us. And just having the true crime conversations,
Yeah,
are,
and
yeah,
hearing different, we learn information as well, so all sharing it together. So great
hang
to
on,
have
let me,
everybody here.
did you, oh, I misunderstood what your question was back there in the back chat. Sorry. I thought you said he was coming. I'm like, wait, was
No,
he
I
there?
was
I just
asking.
missed it.
No,
I was
you're
about to say,
late,
I'm
Salty.
so sorry, Joe. I
That was
didn't
an
know you
hour.
were. I thought he was waiting backstage. He's like, okay, Salty, damn it. Gonna bring me up or not? Ah, it is what it is. I'm a little scattery, guys. It's just, it is what it is. Sometimes I'll be that way. Y'all got to reel me back in when I go off the ledge. But, yeah, I appreciate the facts, and it's Abby and Libby. I will be subbing shortly. Thank you all. Yeah, we appreciate you coming in, hanging out, and joining the conversation. Because a lot of times, talking through the things helps us kind of understand better. And sometimes we don't get anywhere. We just still don't understand. And sometimes we can get there. So I think it's important to see everyone's views, and to be a part of the conversation. That's what it's
Yeah.
all about, in my opinion. And that's what I want my
To let
channel
out
to be
some of
about.
this
Yeah.
frustration we're all feeling with all these
Yeah. Because I
not
do
being able to
enjoy that.
get information.
I know
Yeah.
we're all frustrated. I think everybody wants the facts and the truth brought. And
Hmm.
and that's really what we really want to do the best possible way we can. Of course, we're going to talk about theories. You can't help it in true crime. It's going to be what it is. But I'm never going to tell you guys how to think, what to think, and what to believe. You know,
Right.
we're just going to discuss it and see what we come up with during our conversations of the case. So I do appreciate you guys coming in. I'm going to go before this thing does die and it just cuts us right completely off. And that's because kind of rude. So I don't want to do that. So thank you for coming in for this
Yeah.
little while with me. I did want to, talk about some of the things, but I'll let you guys know when we're going to be live again. If that'll be later on tonight. If I get bored, I might come on live for a little while. If not, it'll be in the morning for sure, and I'll set that up. Now I know Butterfly has to work in the morning, but
Yeah.
if she can jump into mod, she will. We have a small community, so modding is really just we can
Yeah.
pretty much keep an eye
I
on
can
chat.
multitask. Just wouldn't be
Yeah,
able to be on the panel, but yeah, I can do that.
yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you
Thanks,
coming up,
everyone.
Butterfly, as usual. And guys, thanks again for coming
Thanks for
in.
having
And
me.
you're welcome. Um, I'll talk to you all again real soon. Have a good night.
Okay. Good
Good
night.
night.